समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
We are taking a break today, happily, from the war, no war situation in West Asia and talking about something really exciting. Something really exciting, probably one of the most exciting infrastructure / logistics projects in India, which has now been completed. However, so complex are our times that we are coming at it through a very complicated route, through a very complicated and actually an unhappy route. That is what has made us think about this project, because this project has been completed, announcements have taken place, and sometimes you think these things are routine, things keep happening and you don't pay attention. But you know what? Bad guys are paying attention to these things. Now, what are the bad things which I am saying have made us think of this project? And then I will tell you what the project is. Two incidents have taken place in Punjab. One in January and one this week, that is Monday, 27th of April evening. So the first incident took place 9:50 p.m. 23rd of January at a place called Khanpur railway crossing in Punjab near Sirhind. Sirhind is not far from Patiala. You can see it on the map, but just for reference, everybody knows where Patiala is. Sirhind is a princely old state, not far from Patiala, and this is in Fatehgarh Sahib district. This was a low intensity blast on a railway track that caused some damage to the engine of a train and injured the pilot of the loco. That was one incident. For 3 months, this remained unsolved because at the spot where this incident took place, there was no CCTV coverage as well. Then an organization called Khalistan Zindabad Force, KZF or KZF, that claimed, quote unquote, credit for this, saying that they had carried out this attack. Then after the break, on 27th April, that is Monday this week at 8:30 p.m. at the Sambhu border with Haryana. Remember, Sambhu border was in headlines a lot during the farmers' strike, farmers' protest. There, body of a Taran man was found. A man who belonged to a village in Taran. I will tell you more about the village and a little bit of a lore about the village and why the village immediately rang a bell in my head. The man's name, he was identified as Jagroop Singh. He had a broken mobile phone with an active SIM card. Now, he was found dead. What killed him? He was found dead because an explosive or a bomb or an IED that he was rigging, that went off, killing him. He had come to plant an IED, but it went off in his hands and he died. In the process, his phone died, but his SIM card was active. That the police picked up and then used that SIM card to work backwards. He had come to install an IED, an improvised explosive device, but because it exploded prematurely, he died. This SIM card led the police to his village and to his brother. Punjab Police caught his brother, and in the interrogation, the brother Satnam Singh made disclosures that led the police to other raids and other recoveries. These recoveries included RPGs, serious stuff, that rocket-propelled grenade launchers. Remember, there was one RPG attack at a police station just outside Mohali just a few years back. So RPGs were found, RDX was found, and metal improvised explosive devices. Metal is significant because if it's steel, which it mostly is, then you can use magnets to stick them onto motor vehicles, railway tracks, bridges, anything. These were found, RPGs, RDX and metal IEDs. Interrogation of the brother also revealed that Jagroop Singh, the deceased, had made several trips to Malaysia where he had met many of these radical operatives. Malaysia was the place where these meetings took place. He also was in touch with the US based Surinder Singh Tikriwal, who's a well known radical terrorist operative, and also with the Pakistan based Ranjit Singh Neeta. Ranjit Singh Neeta is supposedly the head of his organization. The same module, the police found out, had also carried out the bombing of the Sirhind track, which caused a little bit of damage to an engine. Wasn't that big an IED, but was an IED nevertheless. Now, why is it that I told you there is a bit of a lore about Panjwad, the village in Taran where Jagroop Singh came from? Jagroop Singh, who died, and of course Satnam Singh, his brother. Panjwad is the village. Panjwad is the village made infamous by a man called Paramjit Singh Panjwad. Paramjit Singh Panjwad was one of Punjab's most notorious terrorists, ran a very notorious, vicious terrorist group. He had escaped to Pakistan in 1990 when pressure was going up on terrorist groups. 1990 he escaped to Pakistan. He was living there since then. It is there that on 6th of May 2023, he was shot by unknown gunmen riding a motorcycle and he died. That was 6th of May 2023. In Pakistan, he was not living under his own name. He was living under the name of or pseudonym of Malik Sardar Singh. He had taken over the leadership of Khalistan Commando Force from Kamaljit Singh Sultanwind in 1990. Now, I am not saying the village has anything to do with the current module. All I am mentioning to you is that there is a history to the village. Now, why have we given you such a long story about two incidents in Punjab? Two incidents on railway tracks. Punjab has many railway tracks going through it. Trains go from here to there, a place A to place B. Trains from Punjab go to every part of the country. The important thing is both incidents took place on one particular rail track, and this is not an ordinary rail track. This is the rail track of India's dedicated freight corridor. India has now built two dedicated freight corridors. That is what I described as one of our most exciting infrastructure and logistics projects. The total length of the two dedicated freight corridors, the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor, of which this track was a part, and the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, together they are today 2,843 kilometers. They have cost already 1,25,000 crores, that's 1.25 trillion rupees. These cut through 9 states, 77 districts, 11,000 hectares of land has been acquired for this, for which government has paid 21,000 crore rupees. The reason this project is so exciting is that the normal Indian goods train or freight train, which ran roughly at about 20 to 25 kilometers per hour on an average, is now running on these dedicated freight corridors that cut across the most important industrial zones of the country and also the most important raw material producing zones of the country. For example, the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor starts at this point. It will now go further into Bengal. It starts at the eastern end at Sonnagar in Bihar and then comes westwards and terminates in Ludhiana or near Ludhiana at a station called Saneval. The important thing with dedicated freight corridor is that not only does the freight corridor has its own tracks, it does not share the track with other passenger tracks and other freight tracks. Currently in India, both goods and passenger trains run on the same tracks, causing delays for each other. In this case, DFC has dedicated tracks. That is the most important thing, and that's why the speed, and that's why, because it's also a new track, it can carry a lot more weight. This has greatly improved India's logistics. India's logistics timings have come down. For example, a normal goods train would take anything at its very best 3 full days coming from Mumbai to Delhi and vice versa. Now, using the DFC, you can do it in maximum 48 hours. See what that means to goods that are being transported, the cost of holding them, the amount of capital that is blocked. All of that makes a very big difference. It is this project Obviously, it's now been completed. It was on March 31, 2026, as recently as that both the corridors were completed. It's obvious that the bad guys are targeting this project. I know I've said this often enough that in journalism, we follow the 3 example rule. So I'm not wishing that a third attack should take place, and I'm not waiting. I think 2 attacks of this type taking place only on dedicated freight corridor tells you that some bad guys have decided to target this very visible, very important prestige project, but also one with the greatest strategic importance for India. Otherwise, there are 50 other tracks in Punjab that are available. Why target only dedicated freight corridor? Nevertheless, it gives us an opportunity to talk about the project. The project was conceived in the UPA era. In fact, very early in the UPA era, in 2005, it was approved in 2006. The Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation of India Limited, a PSU, was established to implement this in 2006, and then it ran into trouble. And what is the trouble with these projects in India? The first thing is land acquisition, and UPA was not very willing to acquire land. Also, the legal framework wasn't there. The legal framework was a very old one. Nobody wanted to give land at those kind of prices. This then waited for a lot of these cobwebs to be cleared for almost 10 years. 2015, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs approved 1.25 lakh crores for the project. When it was first approved, the cost was 26,000 crores. So it had already gone up by 5 times. This was to be implemented jointly by the Center, World Bank, and the Japanese International Cooperative Agencies, JICA. JICA has also given a lot of soft loans for other projects, for example, the Delhi Metro, the Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train, and many more in and around Mumbai as well. I told you the dedicated freight corridor has 2 wings. One is the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor that was completed in October 23. The section coming out of Ludhiana or Sanewal, a village near Ludhiana, which also has an old flying club and airport, just as dedicated freight corridor has its own railway tracks, it also has its own stations, because these are stations that are then linked to highways, because containers come on these trains, heavy goods come on these trains, and these have to be emptied out quickly, and also so that they do not clutter the existing railway stations. Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor was completed in October 23. Western Dedicated Freight Corridor was completed on 31st March 2026. Generally, the 2 corridors followed the pattern of Golden Quadrilateral of the National Highway Program. Golden Quadrilateral, as we would know, was Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, like that. So generally, this followed that, the same diagonal arms. Currently, the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor starts from Ludhiana or Sanewal near Ludhiana, goes to Sonnagar in Bihar. This has lost 538 kilometers of its originally planned length, because these 538 kilometers would have taken into Dankuni in West Bengal, which is very close to the Shama Prasad Mukherjee port, which means goods from across the country could be picked up and taken to a big port in Kolkata, and similarly, goods arriving at that port could be then taken to other parts of the country. The track not reaching West Bengal is a loss for India. It's also a loss for West Bengal. Mostly, it could not be done because of land acquisition problems in West Bengal, and I can guess also because of lack of coordination, understanding, or the simple old cussedness between the state government and the central government, because these two have been run by rival parties who don't particularly have much love lost for each other. In the process, the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor has stopped 538 kilometers short of where it would have reached. Something's happening there. I will come to that. This corridor, however, has made a very big difference in the transportation of coal, because coal mines are in eastern India and coal is a heavy commodity. It was cluttering all our freight train network. Now it's getting onto DFC and reaching power plants in the north and elsewhere very quickly. 68% of all freight transported by Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor right now is in fact coal. At this point on the corridors, about 400 up to 400 trains are running every day. These include India's longest trains, longest as in really long trains. I will tell you about a couple as we go along. But these trains now can take freight which is about 4 to 5 times of the average for Indian goods trains in the past. The Eastern Freight Corridor first, that is 1337 kilometers. I told you it still was left 538 kilometers short, on which work will now be on. I will come to that in a bit. This is from Ludhiana or Sahnewal in Punjab to Sonnagar. This is the one that got bombed twice. And then there is the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, 1506 kilometers. That's from Dadri in Uttar Pradesh, just a little bit beyond Noida in Uttar Pradesh. Then it crosses the Jamna, comes into Haryana. There is this bridge specially built for this, comes into Haryana. In Haryana, because it crosses the Aravlis to reach Rewari, there is a 2.92 kilometer viaduct built, 25 meters high, and this is strong enough to take a double stack train, because these trains also carry double stack as in double decker containers. That has been built through Sona area, starts in UP, goes to Rewari in Haryana, then cuts across Rajasthan, Gujarat, touches Sanand. That is where the Tata set up the nano unit. It's a big industrial township now, and then goes past some of India's busiest ports, Mundra, Pipavav, Kandla, and ends at Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust, which is essentially the Mumbai port. Now, what's the benefit of this, and why is this such an exciting project? So, watch this. 66% of India's high-density routes right now are all running at more than 100% capacity. That's why you find trains stop someplace, one more train will pass, another train will pass, something else will have priority, trains get held up. Currently, passenger and freight trains both use the same tracks. Currently, in India, the average tonnage that a goods train or freight train carries is 5,400 tons. Global average is from 20,000 to 37,000 tons. This just adds to time and cost of freight transport. In the process, heavy things like cement, steel, FMCG goods, automobiles, auto parts, agricultural goods, all of them suffer delays, and some of this is also perishable. That has resulted in a decline of railway share in India's freight traffic. 1950 was a long time back. Railways transported 68% of India's freight. By 2021-22, it came down to 26%. Who took up that load? Most of that load was taken by trucks, by our highways. That's more than 40%. That also means that much more diesel is being burnt. It adds to cost. It clogs our highways and also causes pollution. Now, increasingly, freight trains are shifting. They are shifting from the shared corridors, shared tracks to DFC. Also, a lot of the trains are not dedicated to DFC. They are not run on conventional or older tracks. In fact, some of the new tracks that will now be built, particularly the 538 kilometers taking the EDFC to Dankuni in West Bengal, on that one, other goods trains will also be allowed. That will not be only dedicated to DFC trains. Otherwise, on DFC, dedicated trains only will run. Now, these two corridors have been built, but the work is not done yet. So, Cabinet has already given approval for more corridors. First of all, there is the East-West corridor. That is 2,155 kilometers. That will go from Dankuni again very close to the Shama Prasad Mukherjee port, effectively Kolkata port, to Surat. So, that will get right across India from east to west. For that, an announcement was made in the budget. However, work hasn't started on any of these projects yet. All of these are in DPR stage, detailed project report stage. Then comes the North-South corridor, 1,115 kilometers. That starts from Itarsi in Madhya Pradesh and goes to Vijayawada. Vijayawada is going to be a very important place now. That's when the capital Amravati is coming up. Then the East Coast corridor. East Coast corridor is 975 kilometers. That goes from Kharagpur in West Bengal again to Vijayawada. For this also, DPR is ready. And then the problematic part, the 538 kilometers, which could not be done with EDFC. That is being done in two phases now. So one phase goes from Sonnagar to Andal. I presume it's about 400 kilometers. This was sanctioned in 2022. This is being done under the EPC mode, engineering project construction mode. That's when the government does all the funding, in this case the central government, but a contractor builds it. This is being done by East Central Railway and Eastern Railway. Then the remaining section of 163 kilometers from Andal in West Bengal to Dankuni, close to Shama Prasad Mukherjee Port, 163 kilometers, that is being done by Eastern Railway. For this now, 97% of the land is acquired. This is the part I had said I will come to when I told you earlier that EDFC could not be fully completed because 538 kilometers was left over because of land acquisition problems. And finally, I will tell you about some exciting developments, exciting trains on our freight corridors and also in our freight system. So India now has its longest and the most powerful freight train. It's been named Rudrastra. We'll see if you can find a video, it will run on your screens. Rudrastra is a train that is 4.5 kilometers long, 4.5 kilometers long, with 7 synchronized locomotives. It has 7 engines which are synchronized, hauling it, 354 wagons in 6 linked rakes. On August 7, 2025, it set a record by hauling 25,488 tons. I told you that in India, average is 5,400 tons per train. This one hauled 25,488 tons. However, this was even bettered by another train which is not that long. It is quite long, but not as long as Rudrastra, that is Super Vasuki, that is 3.5 kilometers. That hauled 25,962 tons. How did it carry more weight? That's because of the configuration of the wagon. And obviously, the weight would also be determined by the commodity or the goods that you are carrying. And then while Rudrastra is 4.5 kilometers, Super Vasuki is 3.5. There is also Sheshnag, which is 2.8 kilometers. So the era of the super big haulage trains has now arrived in India. And that is a very exciting story because logistics in India add an incredible amount of cost to Indian businesses, Indian industry, Indian manufacturing. And improving railway haulage at a radical pace is the best method of reducing logistics time and also costs. This also gives you an idea why the bad guys would be targeting something like this, because this is very important. And also, parting thought, think of the difference these railway tracks will make when it comes to hauling military equipment and forces across the length and breadth of India. That's why there is a significant strategic element too.